Ready for an adventure? Welcome to Kirksville, Missouri. Thanks for going on another exploration of Missouri life today. We are going to get to know the people and places of Kirksville, Missouri. We'll explore a local cafe with a powerful vision to change the world. We'll taste Missouri wines, feel vibrations from the music, see the world through the colors of Clara Straight, get educated on higher education, and we'll take a walk through some ritual grounds dating back to year one. But first, how did this all start?
Thousands of years ago, at what is now known as Thousand Hills State Park, an ancient native people told their story in stone. To dive deeper, we turn to naturalist Emily Burke.
These are quite significant, several hundreds of years old. When did you and how did you get them dated back to their origins?
Part of it was based on the style. We had a rock art expert come out and she was familiar with the styles, and part of it is based on the erosion. So we know roughly how long it takes sandstone to erode under natural rainfall. We have a fairly good idea of what rainfall historically was like here. And so you can plug some numbers into an equation and come to about 1,500 years old for the carvings.
I feel like I see maybe turtles and birds, some form of maybe salamander or...
Yep, we have lizards and snakes.
Some of these, despite other modern people's carvings on top of them, are very easy to see and identify. The other is this bird.
There are this big bird here on the end.
That one's easy to, very clear to see.
So this one is different than a lot of the other birds on here. He's very big, he has a big blocky head and a big squared off tail. And here we have another creature of legend. There's a car named after it. Can you guess what it is?
Thunderbird.
The Thunderbird, exactly. I want you to imagine that you are out on the plains and the grass is tall. It waves gently in the breeze like a sea of green. In the distance, there's a herd of bison, almost 1 million strong, and there's not much that can frighten the bison. But then you hear something coming over the horizon, and the bison spook and start to run, all of them thundering across the plain. And you can only think of one thing that could frighten the herd this way. And it comes over the horizon, its wings so massive that they blot out the sun. Rain and clouds trail behind it. When it blinks its eyes, there's a bright flash in the clouds. Its wings, every time it beats, there's an earth-shattering boom that rattles your very bones, and in its talons, it carries giant, writhing, sparking, glowing vipers that it strikes down at its enemies. And it could set the prairie grass on fire, and you hope that you have paid proper homage to the Thunderbird and respected it well, because should it be insulted, one of those snakes might be coming for your village to burn it to the ground.
You're talking about a thunderstorm.
Exactly.
But they gave it the name of a Thunderbird. Emily, I want to thank you for showing us, giving us as up close of a look as we can possibly get of the petroglyphs. You feel like showing us the rest of Thousand Hills?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. So Thousand Hills is 3,000 acres and 90% of that is undeveloped wilderness. So for people who really want to get out into nature and kind of away from the developed parts of the park, we offer almost 17 miles of hiking trails. We also offer a marina that rents boats, kayaks, canoes. People can come to interpretive programs, so they can come out bird watching either with myself, or we have people, I know a couple who actually have been birding here almost every day for 48 years. Lots of people come, they just come out to walk and ride their bike because it's nice and peaceful. And we also have, in a month here, the swim beach is going to open. So we have a free public beach once that's opened up. But a lot of what I hear from people is they really enjoy the peace and quiet, even up in the campgrounds or in the picnic area.
Is there a favorite piece of the park for you? Is there something that you just absolutely enjoy?
Kind of a funny thing about the park, I like to joke that it's like somebody took a giant melon baller to the Ozarks and then plunked it down up here. Because if you look east and west of here, it's pretty gentle and flat. And then you come here and all of a sudden it's hilly and rocky and it's really quite rugged and beautiful. But this is one of my favorite places to be.
Well, I thank you so much for sharing your passion with me about the park. It's truly beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. I absolutely love it here and thank you for coming out to see us.
After checking out the petroglyphs at Thousand Hills, we continue on our outdoor adventure, dropping in a line with local anglers Randy and Jody at Hazel Creek Lake.
Yeah, Hazel Creek Lake is a great fishery. The fish that we're fishing for now is the muskie that's stocked by the Missouri Department of Conservation through the Show Me Muskie Project. Also in this lake, though, are largemouth bass, crappie, bluegill, and different types of catfish. Got it, fish on.
There we go, fish on.
Oh, he got off.
Winding down backcountry roads and taking in the scenery, it was easy to appreciate the amazing natural beauty of the area. The trees painted on the rolling hills almost look like a work of art. That's how one Missouri artist sees the world. Nestled in her childhood home just outside of Kirksville lives Clara Straight, a retired Cornell professor, avid traveler, and inspiring artist. I had to meet her.
Is that you? Are you in?
I'm in.
Yeah, come on in. See what I got.
Okay.
This is the very last one I painted for my 100th birthday.
And when do you turn 100 again?
What?
When do you turn 100 again?
August 28th. I call it my 100th
This year?
Yeah, right away.
Have you always lived in Kirksville? Is this where you grew up?
My folks came here 6 weeks after I was born, so I have lived here 100 years.
You taught art, right?
I taught art, so but I had to stand up in front of a crowd and lecture and all that stuff. But still, the painting is what really kept me alive. I like the teaching, but I painted forever after I left college, always until right now. Mm-hmm.
How many paintings do you think you've done over your lifetime?
Oh my land, I haven't had time to count.
Could you though?
I write every name down if I remember, but I'm sure I don't remember everything. Every penny that I sell, who I sold it to, and what I got for it. And I have books full of that. But I have never gone back to count. There's hundreds and hundreds, and they're all over the world, they're really.
Are you surprised by how many people just are such fans of your work?
Well, it's kind of my connection to humanity. It really is, because it speaks to them. My form of painting is made to speak to people. That's why I paint like I do, instead of doing abstracts and all that. That's why I broke away. I didn't want to do that abstract stuff. I like to feel the atmosphere.
My mom always says paintings have warmth.
It sure does. And you can just, if you get out of sorts, if you go out and paint, you're so immersed in what you're doing that everything else leaves and you forget all the stuff you were worrying about. You're just me and it. It really is that way. And then I just paint like crazy, and I'll go over the whole thing all at once. So it's all knitted together. And then I'll come in the house and sit it up and look at it, and it will speak to me. We have been speaking to each other. And I'll see where it's going. Some of it surprises me because it tells me what to do. And then the next day I'll go out, I can see what's wrong with her, and then I'll go over the whole thing again with another layer. And then finally another layer of the finest of the fine detail. And then it'll take quite a little while before I get every speck of it the way I want it.
Can you tell me about how you sketched Robert Frost?
Yes, it was out at Cornell. They always had a visiting lecturer, and I just sat there and drew. Anyway, I just walked right up to him afterwards and asked him if he'd autograph it. And I took his little pencil, he was kind of shaking. Robert Frost. It was so cute. I love that picture.
And you still have it?
Yeah, I'll show it to you when you get ready to go in. Yeah.
Do you have a place that just is memorable? Is there a favorite spot that you've lived or traveled?
Well, strangely to say, I never really felt at home anywhere but here. And I spent every summer here. So I'd paint here all summer, so my painting was something that went forever. It was threaded all the way through. And I never missed one Christmas in this. I've been in this house for Christmas for 100 years.
Is this your inspiration? Is your home
Absolutely.
Missouri?
Absolutely. Other places are away from home. And the funny thing was, out there, people just went crazy over the paintings I did here. They'd actually knock each other down
To
see who got the painting. Yeah.
Clara, we thank you for your time.
You're welcome. You want to go in and see Robert?
I do. I really do.
Clara shared her skill and passion with students for decades. Here in Kirksville, 2 universities are doing the same.
My name is Zack Burton. I'm a residence hall director here at Truman State University. I'm also an alum. I'm also involved in the Kirksville community with a lot of things, and for about the last 3 weeks, the mayor of Kirksville. Kirksville's never been just a one-company town. We've got a lot of things that have always been going on for us. We're an agricultural and economic hub for the region. We've been a source of industry for the region as well. We have 2 institutions of higher education in town. But Truman, of course, is a large impact on what that looks like. I think we're known for being just this really wonderful place for higher education. A premier education can be attained while attending the university. We've prided ourselves throughout our entire 150 years of being a really great institution where you can learn a lot, but also be focused on a degree that truly matters and has a lot of integrity behind it. Since the 1970s, we've really focused on being this highly rigorous institution as well, creating what you might find at a private, small liberal arts college somewhere else, creating that experience so that anyone in the state of Missouri who's prepared for that kind of education can have that.
Andrew Taylor Still was the founder of osteopathy. He was a very unique individual, and he did found osteopathy when he was 64 years old and started the school here in Kirksville in 1892. Osteopathy is a very unique way of practicing medicine. Dr. Still's main focus was anatomy. His concept was that you had to know the body or you couldn't treat it. The MDs at that time were practicing putting leeches on you, bloodletting, poisoning, purging, blistering, all these things that he felt they could not save his family. So he had been toying with osteopathy for a long time. And he felt that the main focus on medicine was the body, the mind, and the spirit. Now people would contact Dr. Still, and they would say, we need an appointment. But they would have to come in by train, from other states even. They would board with people in Kirksville, what we refer to now as a bed and breakfast. They would rent a room, they would eat meals with them. He was just a very good doctor. So they convinced him to start a school. They said, when you die, this is going to be gone. What started here in a little bitty house It's just amazing. It is amazing what one man did with an idea, with the enthusiasm to be steadfast in his belief and to do it. And he did. And he did. So here we all are.
Kirksville has so much to offer, I couldn't possibly see it all on my own. So I asked native Missourian Will Moore to be our flavor guide. He dropped in at West Winery at Jackson Stables, a great place to bond with the community and uncork some award-winning wines.
Well, thank you. Thanks.
I'm excited to try your wine.
Well, we're going to try some, a lot of our dry wines today. We're going to try our Vidal Blanc first. This is one of our gold medal winners. This is a dry white, 0 residual sugar. And this is native Missouri grapes, so.
Very cool.
Off of our 107 vine label.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Let's give it a taste. So tell me, how did you get into making wine?
Well, I actually started in my kitchen and then moved to the basement. And then we moved into our first place in Macon. Once we had started our place in Macon, Dr. Jackson showed up. He said, hey, come up and look at my barn. And we were like, yeah, this'll work. So about 8 months later, we had another winery here. And then we've moved on over into Hannibal at the Mark Twain Cave.
Well, I've killed that delicious Vidal Blanc. I don't know if I'm supposed to, like
No,
I said.
it's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. We're gonna rinse you out here real quick.
Cool.
Dump you out, and we'll move on to our signature red. This is the only one that we actually bring in California grapes. It has Syrah. It's a 50-50 blend of Syrah Chamberson, and Chamberson is our kind of our grape at the winery. Missouri's state grape's the Norton, but we prefer Chamberson because I like Pinot Noirs, and Chamberson's a Pinot Noir hybrid, so.
Cheers.
Yeah. This one was a gold or double gold medal winner last year, I believe, so.
Oh, that's great.
When we make wine, the only thing that we'll ever add really to it is sugar if it doesn't have enough sugar to make high enough alcohol. So we stick to a traditional, we ferment the grapes, we bring them in, we crush them, ferment them, and we very rarely have to make any adjustments because we actually buy the best grapes from the start.
So this place is absolutely beautiful. It's a wonderful barn, great location. What's the story behind all this?
Well, actually, Andrea, are you here?
Hey, I'm Will.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having us. You have a beautiful building.
Thank you.
Care to show me around?
I would love to.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chris. Your wine is awesome.
Thank you.
I'm gonna grab a bottle next chance I get. So, well, let's take a look around.
Okay. We are here for Kirksville. We now have quite a few event centers that have popped up in the past, actually, year. But prior to that, there really weren't many. And so we just want to provide something different to the community and just really try to take on different types of events. We've even had a celebration of life for a young man that passed away. And so just really trying to make it unique and special. So I think that's really what our main goal is. We want to share and we want to contribute in that manner. So.
I think you guys have succeeded in contributing and having a beautiful space and sharing that is a wonderful thing. I look forward to coming back and having some more wonderful wine.
Yes, when you're not working.
Yeah. Or when I am working.
There when you are.
Right?
West Winery at Jackson Stables helps to shape the community by sharing its unique flavor and atmosphere. However, it's not the only barn in town with flair. The Round Barn originally housed animals and hay, but now thanks to Dan Vogt, this nationally registered historical site resonates in the hearts of the community with the welcoming sounds of blues.
My name is Dan Vogt, and we bought the Round Barn property 1999 because we wanted to move out in the country a little bit. When I first came here, the round barn was all closed up and not really being used for hay anymore. And I walked through it and just thought just how wonderful it was, just how awesome it was. I had friends of mine that came around and they said, you know, this would be a really good venue. And I didn't know what a venue was, but I do now. Initially, it started out small, and then we were having Grammy Award winners and paying a little bit more money for the acts, and I think the biggest crowd we ever had was about 1,000 people. The thing that people need to know about the Round Barn is that it's a one-of-a-kind structure. And when you stand inside of it and the music's playing, you feel like you're in the inside of a speaker because it's an inverted speaker. It's made out of wood, and you've never heard music ever sound as good as it does inside the barn. We do our best to keep it up. You ought to try roofing it sometime. This was my first shingling project. If people come out, they won't be disappointed because it's such a great time. And the food's great, the beer's good, the blues is awesome.
So far, the community of Kirksville has displayed such generosity and a genuine love for sharing. From the beauty of nature to an eye for art, a secret fishing spot, or a thirst for knowledge, everyone we meet along the way has been eager to share with us a bit of what they love about this place. Continuing in the legacy of sharing in Kirksville, we dropped in at Take Root, a pay-what-you-can cafe serving delicious, locally sourced meals to everyone, regardless of means.
When you're trying to explain Take Root to somebody, how long before people really got the concept and the idea of how it works? And then walk me through how it works.
It takes like 2 or 3 times before it actually clicks. We try to have that sign up front that, you know, we'll walk people through, and then when people come in, we explain this is a pay-what-you-can cafe, nonprofit, so you can either volunteer your time, you can donate above the suggested amount or donate below the suggested amount. Or you can use a meal token that's values up to $8 for a meal. Jessica and Tracy, so Tracy is her husband, and one of their, just from knowing them, one of their big dreams, or I guess passions, is locally sourced food, and then getting that food to everyone.
I'm Jessica Parks. I'm the executive director of Take Root Cafe. Our vision is really to create a more compassionate, thriving, economically strong community through sustainable and local foods. It's really a bigger idea of creating a local food system, one in which everyone in our community has access to healthy foods.
We're here because of donations. People that can pay more than the suggested, that's what's really helping Take Root thrive.
A lot of people thought we were crazy and that it wasn't going to work, that you can't serve really high quality food on a pay-what-you-can basis. A lot of people thought we would get taken advantage of, people wouldn't volunteer, but we find that a lot of people volunteer for meals. We find that, you know, people understand the system, and we actually have to go out and do more outreach to low-income people to try to get them to come to the cafe than we do have to for people who are paying the suggested amount or more. So that's always a continuous effort to make sure we're reaching low-income people who need it in our community.
When you're providing locally produced food, that money's going back into the community. Those producers have found another avenue for their product, and it's a beneficial. It's a win-win.
Yeah, and I think the Kirksville community really likes that aspect of the cafe.
The restaurant is a great foothold in the community, but Take Root actually offers so many other things besides just food and you know, community sense. You guys take that to another level.
Yeah, so I'd say I've really wanted Take Root to expand beyond food. We do a lot more. Come to our events and then get a great meal, or get a great meal and connect with community, because that's another big part of the mission is connecting with everyone. And the future, we're hoping to continue to expand, and Take Root may have like their own farm one day, or, you know, a small farm.
Yeah.
But, you know, we might grow our own food and then take people out there to show them how to grow their own food.
We'll stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Thank you for opening your doors to us today. We appreciate it. The food is delicious. Hopefully somebody will take the recommendation and come and visit Kirksville and then sit down at this table, make a big donation for you guys. It's a wonderful idea. It's a beautiful idea, so congratulations.
Thank you.
From ancient artifacts dating back thousands of years to modern, innovative medical techniques, Kirksville is setting new precedents for communities around the world. It's rich in culture, history, and community. I can wholeheartedly say I'm looking forward to my next visit.
Here at Missouri Life, we encourage you to explore our beautiful state and experience all it has to offer. So if you're looking for a daycation or are passing through for an evening, here's a quick overnight itinerary to help you maximize your experience. Grab lunch at Take Root Cafe. Go on a boat ride at Thousand Hills State Park. And round off your trip with a nightcap at Fort Sheridan while enjoying some live music.
On behalf of Missouri Life Magazine and myself, thanks for watching, and tune in next time to spark your spirit of discovery and experience Missouri Life.
Missouri Life Magazine explores and celebrates the people, places, history, and destinations that make our state unique. Subscriptions to Missouri Life Magazine are available at MissouriLife.com. And don't forget to use the coupon code for a special offer. For exclusive content, full episodes, and much, much more, subscribe to the Missouri Life channel on YouTube and enjoy the journey at your own pace.
Thank God we're not in a hot air balloon right now. Beautiful. It'll blow you away.